Welcome, everyone, to the Salesforce Admin Ask the Experts chat. My name's Mike Gerholdt. For those of you that don't know me, I'm host of the Salesforce Admin podcast, and I'm the Salesforce Admin Evangelist here at Salesforce. And I'm so excited to be with you today to ask questions of our amazing experts that we have on staff with us. Just to let you know, we have experts around Service Cloud, mobile, and security. So if your questions are coming in on chat, I will be prioritizing those first. But you're not here to hear from me. I want to introduce everybody that's going to be joining me today on our panel. So Josh, we just got done seeing some amazing mobile stuff. Let's start with you. Where are you from and what do you do at Salesforce?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, this was a great session we had just now on mobile. I was happy to present that. So again, my name is Joshua Schneyer. I'm a senior product manager here at Salesforce. I work out of Southern California, specifically our Santa Monica office. And I've been on the mobile team for a real long time here at Salesforce, actually part of our Salesforce's first acquisition back in 2006. So currently, I manage our notifications infrastructure. We do things like Notification Builder, like you saw for custom notifications. We also handle our standard notifications for things like chatter and approvals and those off-the-shelf type use cases.
Awesome. And coming later in the channel, which you will see after the Ask the Experts, we have a great session on security. Joining us, John, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm John Whenlan. I'm a product manager working on security products. Currently, I have a package that arrived right now. Sorry about that. So
we timed it that way, John. That's all the Trailhead swag that you got to have.
They're relentless. So I'm working on security products like Shield, platform encryption, and a new product called Security Command Center that we'll be talking about later today.
Fabulous. And Purvi, you do a wonderful job of rounding out the admin channel today where we talk about Service Cloud. So please introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Purvi Desai, and I am a product marketing manager on the Service Cloud team. So really excited to connect with you all and talk to you more about Service Cloud.
So this is going to be an amazing time that we have. The questions are going to be live. I'm going to start off with some questions that I had after watching your session. And then in the background for everybody watching, the amazing Mark Baseman, who's part of the Admin Evangelist team, is curating all of your questions from chat and going to put them in a doc for us so that you can help get them answered live. And we'll do our best to get through as many as we possibly can, of course, prioritizing those around mobile and security and Service Cloud, because I have these wonderful experts with us for this time. So Josh, I couldn't help but notice how amazing Notification Builder was. And personally, as an admin, I was so excited to get building notifications for my users and for all the salespeople. And I'm trying to think of, but can I build too many?
Yeah, well, I mean, notifications, like I said, are a really powerful feature, and we love them because it can bring relevant information to the right user at the right time in the right place. So I think the key thing to remember is we want to make sure that we are, in fact, bringing relevant information to the user. So the great thing about the Salesforce platform and being able to trigger notifications from things like Process Builder or Flow Builder, it's transactional, right? So you can listen for very specific relevant events. And we want to make sure that when we do send a notification, it's something meaningful, it's something relevant, it's something actionable, something the user can potentially take action on straight away. So we want to be mindful, certainly, that we don't send too many notifications. We don't want to be telling everybody about every change potentially on a record. I mean, they may ask for that, so maybe something they want down the road. But we want to make sure that when we do send a notification, it's highly relevant. And again, the nature of the platform really allows us to make that call on every change, like every process, every time it fires or every flow. We have the criteria to determine, are we sending the notification based on the right values in a certain field, or the nature of a change in a record or an object. So, and we do want to be mindful of that, but I think really you just want to ask yourself, when you are creating a custom notification, just kind of do a quick sanity check. Is this information meaningful? Is it relevant? Is it actionable? And as long as you kind of take that mindset, you should do just fine.
Great. So Purvi, I'm thinking ahead. And if anybody listens to the podcast or has seen me speak at events or even watched Mark give some of the essential habits for Salesforce admins, they know that we talk a lot about Salesforce administration by walking around, or SABWA. And in your session that we have coming up, you actually talk a lot about personas and interacting with agents. I'd love to know, to get us started, what are some best practices you could give us for how a Salesforce admin could sit down and start chatting with service agents to understand their experience?
Totally. So I think the first step is really, like you said, walking around, but really shadowing agents, watching how they're working, really paying attention to like, what are the processes that they're doing very repetitively, right? Like, what are those issues that they're solving constantly? What are those clicks that they're constantly taking to achieve their end result? And by, figuring that out, you can take notes there and then figure out how you can automate those. And you can automate those with macros, for example, which we'll talk about more during my session, or flows, or even with Einstein bots, right? So if you're seeing that your agents are handling some very repetitive chats and answering very frequently asked questions, there's opportunities for you to use Einstein bots to kind of automate those as well. So that would be the first thing I would recommend, to really just watch what kind of issues they're resolving, what are the steps they're taking to, and what are the steps they're taking to resolve that. The second thing to consider, and actually one of our customers did this, is to create an agent council, or a soundboard, something like that.
Yeah.
To really just have a group of users that are just your super users, right? And they're really influencing your roadmap and giving you feedback. And even it's a good group to pilot things to, right? Like, so if you, for example, roll out a new feature, you can just pilot it to the small group and keep tweaking it, keep getting feedback, so you can really have it perfect when it goes out to the rest of the team. And the other good thing about having that, and what one of our customers really like what was valuable for them, is that they were champions, right? They were champions of Service Cloud, and they were super users. So they actually had a distributed contact center. So these super users were from different locations, and they'd go back to their location and really champion the product and really help the other users and roll it out, making the admin and product managers' jobs a little easier as well.
Absolutely. And with all of us being virtual, SABWA has changed. I need to rethink the acronym, because it's not walking around, it's maybe zooming around. So
Right.
SASBA, I got to think of something new there.
I like that.
John, let's talk about multi-factor authentication, because I recently, over the last few years that I've been at Salesforce, totally multi-factor everything I possibly can, and love saving my passwords into a password manager. But where should I start thinking about security in my org?
Well, there's a couple of things I would do. First is look at what are your security requirements? Are they regulatory requirements? Are they your own internal security policies? What are those telling you need to do? So I would focus on that first. Prioritize the items that are kind of the higher important items, or higher importance items on those requirements. And some of those are definitely going to be multi-factor authentication, like you mentioned. It's a super simple way to improve the security of your environment without a lot of effort around it. You enable multi-factor authentication. Your users have to have that second factor while they're logging in. It's really easy, and the benefit is significant. So that's a quick win. Something else you could do is just run security health check. Just see where your org falls. Running that. And that will point out areas that you can also focus on.
Yeah, very good. Security health check is so cool. And I've demoed that in a lot of breakout sessions. I love how you can just jump right into the section that you need to address and make those changes. And you're not kind of searching through setup to try and find everything. So Joshua, a question came in, and it's great that we have all levels of experience and all levels of expertise tuning in on the different channels. And I never really thought of this, but what are some of the technical considerations for Notification Builder, such as socket limits or Apex CPU time limit errors?
Well, for notifications, we do have some limits. Of course, we're on the platform, right? So we always, need to make sure we're mindful of limits that exist for, the health of the platform. Specifically around those types of constraints you mentioned, I'm not aware of any specific issues. Although, we do have some limits that we have them all documented. For example, the number of recipients that a notification can fan out to, that's limited to 10,000, or the number of times you can invoke a custom notification action within an hour, that's also 10,000. And a lot of these limits, are really kind of based on the capabilities of the platform. We want to make sure that we're not, doing anything with notifications or any feature that's going to harm, the functionality or the effectiveness of any other functionality in your org. So I'm not sure of any specific, concerns around SOCL or around Apex. Generally speaking, if the process that you use or the flow that you use to trigger your notification, as long as those are completing successfully, your notification should go out okay.
That's very good consideration. Plus, think of the end user and the number of notifications they're about to receive, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Purvi, I am thinking ahead to summer. It's kind of a nice day out in Iowa. For those of you, I saw a few people in the chat during the keynote that were tuning in from Iowa. I would love to know for Service Cloud, what is in store? And you don't have to give away what comes in your segment if you have other fun stuff you want to talk about, but in store for Service Cloud in summer 20.
We actually have a very, very exciting announcement. The biggest thing that's going live for Summer 20 for Service Cloud is Service Cloud Voice. And this is actually cloud telephony that's natively integrated into Service Cloud. So this is the first time that we've ever done this. And the reason why this is super exciting for admins in particular is because now voice and all of your digital channels like messaging and chat are all on one platform. So you can manage it all there. And in addition, you're going to be able to empower your business users with data across all of those channels. So like all of that, CSAT data, all of the average handle time, everything like that, they're going to be able to see across every single channel all in one place. So there's a lot there. We're actually showing you how to get started in the demo expo. Check that out. Highly recommend it. So that's one thing that we're very, very super excited about. The second thing is actually coming from Einstein for Service, and that's Einstein reply recommendations. And what that's doing is that during a chat or messaging session, it's recommending the best reply or answer while the agent is chatting with a customer. And this one's actually super cool, in my opinion, because I actually went to a contact center and shadowed agents, and I noticed that they had a Google Doc where they were copying and pasting kind of those frequently answers that they have. And actually our product manager did the same thing and realized like, hey, we need to build this product. And so this is now making it even easier for agents to be more efficient and really focus on the issue and resolving that and focus on the customer because they don't have to, go find those canned answers that they usually do. And then last thing, there's a lot of innovation, but I'm going to tell you about the top three. The last thing is really from Field Service. So with our Field Service Lightning app, a Lightning mobile app, we're now enabling deep linking. So what that means is that before field service agents would have to open up the app and then navigate to where they wanted to go for the action they wanted to take. Now with deep linking, admins can actually provide a link to field service mobile workers to go exactly to the place they need. So whether that's that they need to complete a flow within the app, they can just have easy access to that, making their time a lot more efficient, which in the situation that we're in right now, safety and efficiency is really, really key. So we're excited to announce that as well.
Yeah. And to put you fair on the spot, it is always hard to pick like top three features. There's always so many and you're like, I don't know if I can. It's going to a buffet of features and there's a lot to pick from. John, in your last answer, we talked about health check, and I'd be remiss to think about, so in your segment coming up, you talk Security Command Center. I would love to know, so will Security Health Check still be available when Security Command Center launches? And how often should I continue running Health Check after that release?
Well, to answer the first part of the question, absolutely, Security Health Check will still be available once Security Command Center launches. In fact, it's actually one of the things that Security Command Center is bringing into it in terms of data that Security Command Center collects and monitors. So it will take a look at your Security Health Check scores across all of your Salesforce environments and pull it all into a single interface. So it makes it really easy actually to use Health Check as a tool. In terms of how often you should use it, the answer there is really however often you feel you need to. Certainly once a release is always good. We add new things each release, so there may be something new there that you need to take into account or pay attention to. But you can certainly run it as often as you want. If you want to run it every day, you can run it every day. Now, Security Command Center actually will be pulling your health check information on a daily basis anyways for you. So, in that case, it actually automates it in a few ways.
I didn't think about that. I'm excited it's not going away. I like health check. Okay, Joshua. So in your presentation, you talked about briefcase and offline data. And people want to know a little bit more about that, specifically around the ability to edit data offline and like what happens when they're online or they're offline and then later they go online, but somebody else edited that record.
Sure. So I think we're looking at two things here. One is the briefcase functionality, which really helps define the set of records or the data set that we want to maintain on your device at all times. Do our best effort to ensure the specific set of records is always available for you, regardless of your connectivity. Kind of a parallel point is making edits to those records offline or even creating new records offline. You can almost think of that as kind of a separate topic. So we can certainly come back and dig into the briefcase stuff. I know there are some questions around editing the records offline, and we already do support that capability. So you're able to save a draft of a record offline in the Salesforce mobile app if you don't have connectivity. And the way we handle conflict resolution is when you come back into connectivity, we attempt to upload that record. If we detect there have been some changes to that record that conflict with what you've made on your device, you will have the opportunity to go through field by field and determine what the final value should be. It's not just a simple last one in wins. We will be able to provide you the opportunity to go kind of field by field and resolve any conflicts as you see fit.
Good. So that I win when I mark the opportunity one.
Right.
Purvi, so this is a great question. Came in around Service Cloud and NGOs. And we have somebody in the chat that is an NGO and they use Service Cloud to manage their customer data. And they'd love to know what standard features they could use to assist maybe like event managers or other users in terms of guest management. So I'm assuming they're in guest management and event management.
Okay, so like case management for events and things like that.
Yeah.
Interacting with users. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go through a million of those standard features in my session later today, but maybe I can surface a couple. The first, I think, is what's really great is automation, right? So assisting them, especially when you get close to events, you can imagine case volume gets higher, right? And they're having to talk to multiple customers a lot quickly or a lot more often. So the first thing to think about is implementing macros. Now, this is a standard feature that's included with all Service Cloud licenses. And what it does is it automates multiple clicks into one. So some popular use cases, which I'm going to go over in my session later, but is like, for example, closing a case or escalating it to the next tier, or even creating follow-up actions. So that's something you can do to help your event managers and your agents be a little bit more efficient. The second thing is knowledge, really utilizing Salesforce knowledge and the knowledge base to give them easy access to answers. So, oftentimes many people will open up a case asking questions about certain things. I can imagine for the events asking frequently asked questions. And with these knowledge articles, it kind of gives you, the agent and the event manager, a good way to look up answers and even share those knowledge articles across email, chat, messaging, whatever. So they have that as reference as well. So those are, I would say, the top two to really help them out. And there's so much more. So tune in.
Right. There's always more, right? One more thing. John, we talked multi-factor authentication, and I know in your presentation, you're going to show it as one of the things on the dashboard. Is that something that I should enable for my users right now?
Yes, is the short answer. A slightly longer answer is if you're in an environment where you're not using something like single sign-on to provide identity into Salesforce, then absolutely, I would look at multi-factor authentication. It just provides an extra layer of protection when somebody is logging in with just a username and password. Usernames and passwords, as humans, we're typically pretty bad at creating them. We always use the same one over and over and over on multiple websites. It's just kind of human nature. Multi-factor authentication protects against some of that by requiring you to physically have something in order to log in. So I would definitely recommend doing it. And as you mentioned, Security Command Center does provide a report or reporting on multi-factor authentication adoption, so you can use that to kind of understand where you are.
Nice. So I'm going to ask for all three because I feel like we've bounced between individuals, and a lot of us now are working remotely. We're doing this via Zoom, and we did talk about interacting with our users and making sure we understand kind of how our users are using Salesforce. So for Service Cloud, and it seems very apparent for mobile, we need to sit down with our users and understand how they would do that. And John, I'll get to you last, but I would love to know your tips and advice for admins on, what should we do? Should we schedule Google Hangouts? Should we do office hours with our users? How do we best understand what they're sitting in and kind of their experience in order to make it better?
Maybe I'll start. I definitely think a Google Hangout, Zoom call, whatever, shadowing that way is a great thing, especially if they're having a chat or messaging conversation. I think it'll be harder with voice, but maybe something to try is asking agents to record like their screen, record their audio, and then being able to like watch that afterwards as a way to do it remotely.
And Josh, for our mobile users, because I know even though we're working from home, I will take calls on my back deck, and I actually probably use my mobile device somewhat, a little bit more than I did when I was traveling.
Yeah, and I think that's a shared experience that we're all having right now.
Mm-hmm.
One might think, we're at home, we've got nice connectivity, we're at our desks all day, but the rest of our families are home as well, and we're dealing with things. We're living our lives. We're taking care of our families, and you're all over the place. You're not always at your desk. So I think this is kind of an interesting experience that we have where we're all able to relate a little bit more, especially as admins, doing the same, being in the same experience as maybe somebody in outside sales. It's kind of leveled the playing field a little bit for what people are experiencing and how they're interacting with their orgs. So as as Purvi mentioned, definitely, I think as much FaceTime as we can get, talking one-on-one, but I think really being able to relate to each other with how we're all working now. And, we're not just, at our desks more than we were, or maybe even at our desks less than we were, trying to deal with our lives. So I think you're really just trying to keep those lines of communication open and making sure that, we're all, understanding what the experience, the shared experience is, and having some new relevance and having some new insight, especially for admins. Like I said, with leveling the playing field, inside sales, outside sales, field service, everybody's kind of, working in the same mode right now. So it might even be, a little bit of a better opportunity than we normally have to help figure out what experiences we need to develop and deliver on mobile.
So John, I'm going to flip the script a little bit for you because I do want this question around security. I think as Josh mentioned, as Purvi mentioned, our users are working differently. So help me as an admin understand, I need to talk to people in IT and infrastructure. What should I be asking my users around security and access and accessibility when I think about making sure that our data is still as secure as I had it set up when those users were in the office?
Yeah, I think the biggest change, is really just where users are accessing Salesforce from. So the data for the most part is still staying within Salesforce. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing or that you did before is still going to be relevant today. The difference is access. So whereas before a lot of people would access Salesforce from offices, they're all doing it from home now. So you had controls like login IP ranges where you could define an IP range or IP ranges for your office facilities and allow people to log in from there. Well, obviously, if they're working remotely from home, unless they're connecting to a VPN that's located in your office or on one of those ranges, they can't log in now if you still have those. So you have to make some adjustments and a little bit of relaxation of some of those rules around where people can log in from. At the same time, you can increase your security with multi-factor authentication, stuff like that. So as you relax those rules around where people can log in from, maybe you increase some of the capabilities around or the protections around authentication with like multi-factor. So those are things that I would look at. But for the most part, the benefit of using Salesforce is that the security model doesn't really change depending on where you're accessing it from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was a great question. I'm glad we had that come in chat. And Josh, we touched on this briefly, but I think it's much like notifications. What should I be thinking about in terms of a record limit when I create briefcases?
Sure. So it's kind of interesting with storing offline data. We've gone through a number of cycles over the years where mobile devices first became capable of running custom apps. We tried to put a bunch of data and it wouldn't fit. And then the capability of the devices got a lot bigger, but then they had cameras and we wanted to fill up our storage with pictures, so we had to be real cautious. So I mean, these days most devices have a pretty significant capability to store offline data, but that doesn't mean we want to take too much advantage of it. So just because a bunch of data can fit on the device, and it could fit there and live there very well, you need to also remember we're trying to keep that data up to date all the time. So especially if you are frequently without connectivity, we want to make sure that you're keeping a manageable data set on that device that's not so big that we can't keep it up to date during those moments when you do have connectivity. So obviously, it goes without saying, we want to make sure that we're not putting too much data onto the device and swelling the size or the footprint that our application is taking up on the device, even if it can handle it. Because recall, the reason we're doing this offline functionality in the first place is because we need to always have that up-to-date data set, and you're not always in connectivity. So we want to make sure we do try to keep that at a manageable size so that we are able to work with it the way we're intending.
Right. Yes. I'm going to switch up the order a little bit because I did see a question that I was thinking has come to me a lot as an admin. And John, it's about security, but it also kind of relates to Purvi's session. So Purvi did in her session, she talks about personas, and you're going to see that. John, I get the question a lot of, well, I should have admin ability, right? Like I should have the same admin privileges, and even though they're not an admin user. So I was wondering, like, can you give me any insight into how somebody should sit down and think about the least privilege principle when they're setting up profiles and permission sets?
Absolutely. So this is a question we hear a lot. Users who don't have admin access want admin access because for whatever reason they believe they need it. And obviously with security, we have the principle of least privilege, which means users should have as little access as needed to do their job. So only what they need in order to be successful at what they do. So typically when somebody asks me, hey, I need admin access, the question I ask back is, okay, why? What are you not able to do now that admin access would give you the ability of doing? If they can't answer that question, then they don't need admin access. If they can, then that can point you to what additional access you can give them that's still not admin access, but will allow them to be successful. So it's just having that conversation with them instead of just saying, okay, you want admin access because you think you need it, we'll give it to you. It's, okay, you're saying you need this, why do you need it? Let's drill down into that a little bit and understand better, what is it you're not able to do? And then fix that problem. Because if you can give them the ability of doing their jobs, then really, they can do their jobs and you've been successful.
Smart. Purvi, let's talk about knowledge for a little bit. And I will admit that in the time that I was a Salesforce admin, I got us all the way to the point of implementing knowledge before I moved on. And I remember learning about knowledge and knowledge articles, and we now have the lightning bar. So I'd love for you to help our Salesforce admins out by, should we think about putting knowledge articles or a knowledge component on a case layout, or should we put it in the nav bar at the bottom? Like, what is the best way to help service knowledge articles for our users?
Yeah, so definitely the best place to put the knowledge component is on the case object, on the messaging object, on the chat transcript. It's really where your agents are performing their work, right? It's going to be on that case or where they're interacting with the customer, whether that's the messaging or the chat transcript. Because that way it gives them easy access to look up those articles or have them in context of that case. And that's really important, right? Context and having everything on one screen. And the other thing about knowledge, the reason why I also recommend that you keep it there is that later on you're going to learn about how we're making knowledge smarter with Einstein article recommendations. And when Einstein has all of that, context with the case, it's going to recommend the best article to solve that, saving your agents time from searching and like helping them solve those issues faster. So I would say is the best place to put them and get to be most effective.
Yeah, smart. Josh, we had, as we start to wrap up, a question come in of, can notifications go out to external contacts?
So we can send a notification can be delivered basically, now that we're introducing Notification Builder for external apps, as long as that recipient has a user record in Salesforce, right? Or they can be a traditional user, they could be a community user. We can't send them to a guest user because we don't really have, a user record or user ID that we can use to address that notification. Right. But yes, the short answer to the question, as long as you've got a user record or user ID in Salesforce, you can build that notification and processor flow or be the REST API and deliver it to that user, regardless of their type.
Great. Okay. So that was helpful. I always feel like have them in Salesforce if I could just send them the notification, but they've got to be a user. I would love to know, kind of as we wrap things up a little bit, as you worked at Salesforce and you get to work on different projects and different products, what was the favorite product that you got to work on or a feature that you got to roll out? And John, I haven't talked to you lately, so I'll start with you.
Well, that one's super easy. That would be Security Command Center. So it's a project I started working on about 3 years ago, mostly by myself for the first year and a half. Just kind of building a use case for it and kind of figuring out what do we need to do. And in the last year and a half or so, it's been with engineering and a whole bunch of other teams involved. So it's been really exciting to see it kind of from its inception all the way now through beta release this summer, and then our GA launch coming up at the end of the year.
Fabulous. And Purvi, you have done a ton at Salesforce, and I feel like I've seen you on a lot of Service Cloud things. Do you have a Service Cloud feature or some functionality that you've seen that you're just like, wow, I can't stop talking about this?
I talked about it like 5 times, so it's macros.
Is it?
Yeah, macros are my favorite. It's just like, I think a lot of our customers don't know about them. And then once they do, and once they start using them, they cannot get enough of them because they save so much time. They're so easy to get up and running. And agents absolutely love them. So I can't talk enough about those. Those are absolutely my favorite.
Yeah, I heard they're addictive, like some sort of chip that comes in a can that I can't mention. And Joshua, you and I have worked together on a lot of things, but I'd be curious to know from a mobile perspective, what is one of the features you worked on that was just can't stop talking about?
Yes, I hate for this to sound like too timely and convenient, but I really need to say it's Notification Builder, and I can tell you why. It's because so many pieces of our platform just came together to make it work. And we already had our standard notifications for things like chatter and approvals. And we wanted to expose that to our customers. So we created this notification action that you can use to invoke a notification. But how do you trigger that? Well, we already have, process builder flow. Salesforce platform is already really good at capturing interesting events and then going to do a thing. So we kind of exposed this capability that we already had internally, added a little bit of plumbing, for routing the notifications to the right apps and the right users. We're able to create this really powerful platform for notifications because so many of the pieces were there and we were just able to make them fit together on the platform. And it was just so rewarding to see so many things come together to make it a success.
Yeah, I'm glad we had that mobile session right before this, because when I saw Notification Builder, I remember when I'd seen some Apex or some triggers that had to be written to do that, and to have it all in a builder right now. I know there were experts in individuals that had questions that we didn't get to. We definitely prioritized Service Cloud, mobile, and security. We will go through, but I'd love, as we kind of wrap things up, if you could quickly share, are you on Twitter? Can individuals tweet at you? I know our community loves to ask questions and be a part of our product managers' lives.
I'm on Twitter. You can catch me at Purvi214. So it's PURVI214.
Fabulous.
I am also on Twitter. It's first initial, last name, or first initial and last name. So JWHELAN. And yeah, happy to answer any questions there.
Yeah,
And
I'm
Josh?
Twitter as well, Joshua_Schneyer. But also, please feel free to grab me anytime in the Trailblazer community. It's always a great forum. We can get those conversations going there anytime as well.
Yes, Trailblazer community. It's a place I go. There's an admin Trailblazers group that you can join. So Purvi, John, Josh, I want to thank you for taking time out and being part of this amazing virtual Trailhead DX Ask the Expert session. And for all of you that didn't get your questions answered, I promised we had a crack team behind the scenes that was copying them down, and we're going to work to get those into a blog post or something for you to get those answers. So with that, I want to thank you for watching and stay tuned. There is a ton more great content.